It all started with a feeling, a cold shiver creeping down my spine, a whisper in the back of my mind that something was off. I'd always prided myself on being a trusting husband, on believing in the strength of our vows. But over the last few months, everything began to shift in ways I couldn't ignore. Lydia, my wife of 10 years, had grown distant. She was constantly on her phone, laughing at texts she wouldn't share, staying out late more than usual, and suddenly paying more attention to her appearance than she had in years. She claimed it was for herself, for her confidence. But deep down, I knew it wasn't just for her. I wanted to trust her. I really did. I convinced myself I was being paranoid, imagining things. But then came the night I found the receipt. It was for an expensive dinner at a restaurant. Neither of us had ever been to a romantic spot downtown, known for candlelit tables and proposals. The receipt was crumpled, buried deep in her purse under an old lip balm and a half-eaten granola bar. When I asked her about it, she stammered some excuse about a work meeting, her eyes avoiding mine like a guilty child caught in a lie. A work meeting, huh? I didn't press her that night. I could have blown up, demanded answers right then, but something told me to wait, to gather my proof. If I confronted her too soon, she'd deny everything, and I'd look like a fool. So I did what any rational man in my shoes would do. I became a detective. At first, it was small. I kept an eye on her phone when she wasn't looking. She'd grown protective of it, always angling the screen away from me. But I was patient. It didn't take long before I noticed the same name popping up again and again, texts at all hours. Simple things like, "Can't wait to see you," or "Missed you today." My stomach churned each time I saw them. The name attached to the number was Kara, but I knew better. Kara didn't send messages like that. One night, when Lydia was in the shower, I took the opportunity. Using the passcode I had memorized, I unlocked her phone. My hands shook as I opened her messages. There it was, black and white. A conversation with someone named Mark. Compliments, flirtations, the "I love the way you laugh" messages, and "When can I see you again?" Lydia's responses made my blood boil. She missed him. He made her feel alive. She couldn't wait for the next lunch meeting. I thought about confronting her right then, storming into the bathroom, demanding an explanation. But I didn't. Something inside me wanted more than just an argument. I wanted her to feel the pain I was feeling. I wanted her world to crumble like mine had. So I waited. I planned. The chance came sooner than expected. Lydia had been working on a big project for her marketing firm, a new client eager to make a splash in the industry. She'd been excited and nervous for weeks about a major presentation she was scheduled to give downtown. The morning of her presentation, I kissed her goodbye and wished her luck. She smiled at me, her lips brushing my cheek, and I couldn't help but wonder if she kissed Mark the same way. As soon as she was out the door, I sprang into action. A quick stop at the florist, a run to the copy shop, and by noon, I was parked outside the client's office building. I watched through the window as Lydia stood at the front of the room, confident in her sleek black dress professional, devoted wife. My jaw clenched as I thought about the lies she'd told me to get there. When the delivery driver arrived, I handed him the package and the address. "Make sure it goes directly to Lydia Thompson," I said. "She's expecting it." She wasn't. Not even close. I watched from my car as the driver entered the building with the box. 10 minutes later, chaos erupted. I saw Lydia freeze mid-sentence as the box was handed to her. She opened it with a polite smile, likely expecting flowers or some congratulatory gesture. Instead, she found printed screenshots of her text messages with Mark, along with a handwritten note that read, "You're not as clever as you think you are." The room went silent. Her face turned ashen as she flipped through the pages. The client's team suit-clad men exchanged confused glances and then looked at Lydia. I couldn't hear what was being said, but I could see the panic in her eyes as she tried to explain, to salvage her presentation. It didn't work. And then there was Mark. I'd done my homework on him too. A smooth-talking account manager with a wife and 2 kids of his own. I found his address, his social media profiles, even the school his kids attended. I debated involving his family, but in the end, I chose a more direct approach. After Lydia's disastrous presentation, I followed her to the coffee shop where she and Mark often met. She didn't see me sitting in the back, watching as Mark arrived and slid into the seat across from her. They whispered in hushed tones. Lydia's hands fluttered nervously as she tried to explain what had happened. Mark's face darkened as he realized the implications. That's when I made my move. "Mark, isn't it?" I said, standing over their table. His head snapped up, his expression changing from confusion to recognition to fear in the span of a heartbeat. Lydia's face went pale. Her mouth opened and closed like a fish gasping for air. "Who the hell are you?" Mark demanded, but his voice lacked the confidence of someone who truly wanted an answer. I dropped a stack of photos onto the table, pictures of him and Lydia entering hotels, leaving bars, laughing together in his car. "I'm the husband," I said, "the one you've been lying to. The one you've been screwing over while you played house with my wife." The color drained from Mark's face. Lydia reached for my arm, tears streaming down her cheeks. "David, please, let's talk about this at home." "Oh, we'll talk about it," I said, shaking her off. "But first, I think Mark here needs to explain himself." I turned to him. "I've already sent copies of these photos to your wife and HR at your company. I'm sure they'll appreciate knowing what kind of people they're employing." "You can't do that," Mark stammered. "You'll ruin me." "You ruined yourself," I shot back. "You both did. Did you think there wouldn't be consequences? That you could just waltz through life, wrecking other people's homes, and no one would notice?" Lydia collapsed, sobbing into her hands as Mark sat frozen. I turned to leave, but not before delivering my final blow. "Oh, and Lydia," I said, glancing back over my shoulder, "don't bother coming home. The locks are changed. Your things are in storage. And I've already contacted a lawyer. Good luck explaining this to your parents." Her sobs followed me out the door, but I didn't look back. For the first time in months, I felt free. In the weeks that followed, Lydia tried to reach out apologies, explanations, promises to change. I ignored them all. Mark's wife filed for divorce, and he was fired after HR conducted an investigation into the photos and messages I'd sent. As for me, I focused on rebuilding my life, one step at a time. It wasn't easy, but it was worth it. Lydia and Mark made their choices. Now they had to live with them. And me? I was finally free to live with mine.